Can the Huskers start hot? You know, it's just a matter of time. It feels inevitable before this red Kool-Aid starts to be drank by a lot of people and this Husker hype starts to get in and that hype train really starts to get going. It's interesting because you look back to the spring and then like early summer, there wasn't as much Nebraska hype. And I did my season preview and I kind of looked at their roster from top to bottom and I'm like, I know that they have a manageable schedule, but roster-wise, I was a little bit on the fence whether this team could kind of break through in year 3 of Matt Rule. Now that we get to prediction season, you have a lot of national people saying, well, look at Nebraska's schedule. Maybe they could be this year's Indiana, even though I think that whole discussion and that whole talking about next year's Indiana is a little bit of a flawed concept because I don't see any 3 or 4 win teams making a jump to an 11-win team. Of course, Nebraska won 6 games last season, but, all of that, put that aside. This is a Nebraska team, I think, to start game number 1, to start the season opener. They have a lot of pressure. Can Dylan Raiola take that year 2 jump that a lot of people are expecting him to make as a former 5-star quarterback? Speaking of numbers and the year in front of them, how about that year 3 jump of Matt Rule, right? And then you talk about that very manageable schedule. These are reasons why people are looking at Nebraska as a team that could maybe be a newcomer possibly in the college football playoff. But they got to start off strong. They got to start off hot to set their confidence and set that momentum for the rest of the season. Game 1, it's going to take place Thursday night on the first day of Big Ten football. The Nebraska Cornhuskers will go to Kansas City, Missouri, Arrowhead Stadium to take on the Big 12 Cincinnati Bearcats. This is a little bit of it's an intriguing, interesting first game out of the gate at a neutral site for Nebraska. So you got Cincinnati. Of course, they're the alma mater of Travis Kelce. And then you've got Minnie Mahomes, Dylan Raiola on the side of the Huskers. You got Patrick Mahomes over there, so you've got a vested interest from the 2 most significant players on the Kansas City Chiefs, and the game happens within their home stadium at Arrowhead. So there's some interesting connections that kind of go on from the team that calls this stadium home within the National Football League. Now, when we start to get into this matchup, I start to look around at the rosters, the depth charts, the newcomers, things like that, of both these teams, and I believe Nebraska is just a more talented team. I believe Nebraska should, on a neutral site, they should win this football game. But over the course of 2, 3, 4, 5, the last 5 years or whatever it's been, Nebraska should have won a lot more football games than they did. I'm very intrigued to see how this team comes out of the gate, see exactly where they're starting, and see if maybe they've solved some of the issues of the past of these last 2 seasons of Matt Rule, and maybe some of the issues that have drug over from the Scott Frost era to the Matt Rule era. I think the place that they want to start off hot the most is with the offense. And of course, when you talk about the Nebraska offense, you're talking about Dylan Raiola at quarterback, and you're talking about Dana Holgorsen, the offensive coordinator. Now, you look late last season. Remember how these two really paired together and looked pretty damn good against Wisconsin late in the year? You could kind of start to see what the potential maybe could be with these two. Now you have a whole offseason where Dana's putting in his terminology, he's putting in his language, he's putting in his game plans instead of somebody else's game plans. And now they're able to kind of focus on that relationship together. So where does that leave Dylan Raiola? How much better is he to start this season? That's something that I've really got my eye on because I kind of look at what Cincinnati is presenting defensively. I think Nebraska's got a really good opportunity to go out there and I don't want to say light it up. I mean, it still is a Power 4 opponent, but I think they've got a lot of opportunity to have a lot of success throwing the ball on the outside. Cincinnati defensively is going to be better up the middle than they will be on the perimeter. Let's maybe dive into that a little bit. I mean, Cincinnati maybe the best player on their entire team. Yeah, definitely the best player on their entire team is a defensive tackle by the name of Dante Jorleone. Big presence in the middle at defensive tackle. 6'1", 335, a two-time All Big 12 performer. Last year, first team All Big 12. He's got All-American written all over them. So I'm curious to see how Nebraska, like Dana Holgerson was saying during some of his media availability recently, says, hey, we still want to be an offense that wants to run the damn ball. This is a Nebraska offensive line that has had a little bit of trouble staying consistent. They've had a little bit of trouble staying healthy, really. So staying healthy, I think, is the big thing, because I kind of look around at what Nebraska has on this O-line. I'm like, okay, if that's a group that can stay healthy this season, I think this could be a pretty good group, and one of the best performing offensive line groups that Nebraska has certainly had in some time. So going up against, and it's not just him, there are other really good players up the middle for Cincinnati, and I think that is the strength. So when Nebraska is able to run the ball, how effective is it able to be? That's something I think that I have my eye on. But I think once you get to the perimeter, huge advantages. Well, maybe not huge. Good advantages for Nebraska. Dane Keene, Isaiah Hunter, those guys transferring in, expected to play a big role. Janarian Bonner, Ja'Cory Barney, a couple of young guys that I think can take a year two jump, much like Dylan Raiola, I think could be. You look at Cincinnati, they're depending on 3 transfers to contribute significantly in the secondary. And we'll talk about transfers on another spot on the perimeter for Cincinnati here in just a minute. But, early in game 1, these transfers could be really good when it comes to game 6 and game 7. They can also not be really good in game 1 or game 12. That's the thing about especially if maybe they're coming from a different level. Hey, yeah, you get them for spring ball. Yeah, you get them for fall camp, but they haven't been in your program for multiple years absorbing the terminology, absorbing the scheme. So sometimes in game number 1, you can have these mishaps. So I believe that there is an advantage, a skill advantage, and an experience advantage on the perimeter for Nebraska over Cincinnati in this game. You kind of go to the other side of the coin, and you have a quarterback for Cincinnati in Brendan Sorsby that might be a little bit underrated. Of course, the former Indiana Hoosier quarterback, over 2,800 yards, 18 touchdowns last season. But I think here's the thing. I want to go back to the perimeter, because the perimeter is where Nebraska, I think, once again has the talent advantage, and once again, I think that they definitely have the experience advantage. Cincinnati lost every significant wide receiver that they had a year ago. Now, they do return tight end Joe Royer, 521 yards and a handful of touchdowns last season, but Cyrus Allen transferring over. He was from Texas A&M, didn't do much last year. His most significant production comes at the G5 level at Louisiana Tech, over 1,200 yards with the 2022 and 2023 combined seasons over there down in Ruston. Caleb Goody ranked him on the top 5 wide receivers in speed, according to Telemetry Sports, but the most productive of them all probably came from the FCS level, and that being Jeff Caldwell. 93 career catches, over 1,700 yards, 23 touchdowns. He was named a finalist last year for the Walter Payton Award, the Offensive Player of the Year at the FCS level. He's just one of 3 wide receivers to ever be named a finalist for that award. So you have guys, I think, at wide receiver that bring something a little bit different to the table, but you look to the other side for Nebraska, this is an experienced group. You have multi-year starters. You have 4th-year guys. You have 5th-year guys. You have an experienced secondary back there. Now, this is a point that I may want to make sure that I hit home. Just because guys have played for 2 years, just because they have 4 or 5 years of experience doesn't automatically mean, returning production doesn't automatically mean that these guys are going to get significantly better. Sometimes you have somebody that's a junior and they've already reached their ceiling, and then it's just another year of having that type of player. So how good is the Nebraska secondary? We may find that out in game number 1. Now, I've talked before how I believe the Nebraska defensive line, the interior, especially after the loss of Ty Robinson and Nash Hutmaker in the middle, it's undersized. And you look, there's a familiar name that's going to be running the football. this year for Cincinnati, and that's Tawee Walker, the transfer from Wisconsin. Now the Cougars, the Bearcats. I don't know where I got Cougars from. The Bearcats had an 1,100-yard rusher last season in Corey Kiner, so he's no longer there. I think they're going to look to get Walker going a little bit more. So I'm very intrigued to see how Cincinnati is going to call things offensively. I think Sorsby's a solid quarterback. I think Walker's a pretty good running back. We've seen him at Wisconsin, of course. Are they going to attack that undersized defensive front? How is Nebraska going to be able to push back in that scenario? Can they control the line of scrimmage to be able to keep the Nebraska offense on the field? I don't know if that run game is going to be as physically imposing or as dominant just to be able to do that of what I just mentioned. Once again, as I said at the beginning, I just think, Nebraska they're a deeper team. I think they're a more talented team. I think Cincinnati, a team that went 5-7 last year, they're starting to build things up slowly but surely in the Big 12. But I just think Nebraska overall is just at a higher level as a football team. So I've got Nebraska winning this game to get things started. 1-0 record. They probably win it by at least double digits. But once again, I want to see Nebraska come out and do what they're supposed to do. Sometimes in these early season matchups over the last handful of years, whether it's been Matt Rule, whether it's been Scott Frost, sometimes they maybe don't get off to the hottest of starts. So I want to see them start hot. If they start hot, in this one, they could carry a lot of momentum to when they play Michigan later in September. Those are my thoughts. I want to hear your thoughts in the comments below. I'm Big Ten Ted. We will see you in the next one.